welcome back to the Money, Mindset and Business podcast. If you have been listening here for a while, or if you are new, I would really appreciate it if you could give that subscribe button a click and rate the show on whatever platform it is that you're listening on. Thank you very much. Let's get into the episode. And welcome back to the Money, Mindset and Business podcast. Today we have a special guest called Mary, and she is my moon queen. She's teaching me everything to do with being in line with the moon. So, Mary, please introduce yourself and share with the audience who you are, what you do, and anything you want to share. Go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And I am ecstatic to be here talking about the moon. And my focus with the moon is really how can we better take care of ourselves? So I partner self-care with the moon, and how can we better take care of ourselves in alignment with the moon's phases, right? And with her cycle. And so we know that the moon cycles every 29 and a half days, very similar to female menstrual cycle, which I've really loved exploring and learning about my own cycle and then adding in all of that information. I'm just a total nerd when it comes to all of this. I love talking about these topics, but I definitely live my life cyclically. I end with the seasons of nature, bigger picture. You know, we have 4 seasons that we move through, really leaning into designing and creating my life around these cycles, not just the 24-hour cycle, which most of our society and culture live in that 24-hour. We've got 24 hours to get as much done as we can, and then we go to sleep, and then we wake up and do the same thing the next day. And I really approach my life and what I teach others in a softer, more feminine flow schedule, I guess. It's not really a schedule, but we're aligning what we are doing, the activities that we're doing with how we're feeling and what the moon is doing. And the moon has a huge effect on us, more than we realize. The moon has a gravitational pull on the earth. Like, this is science, and it affects the tides. You can look all this up. Yes, it affects the tides. Yep. And so that being said, it affects the water on Earth. And we, as humans, are made up of a lot of water. I don't know, 60-70% water. So when the tides are affected, the water inside of us is also affected by what the moon is doing. And the moon is something that we all know it's there. And most people I know, when they see it, get excited to see it. I mean, me especially, but it is something universal. We all have the moon. It's the same moon, which is really cool. And the cyclical nature of the moon, I mean, it does the same thing every 29 and a half days, the same phases. And so I really find comfort in that, knowing that each phase I'm doing different types of self-care activities, and we're going to talk today a little bit about money and business activities that you can do during each phase. But I really find comfort that during, let's say, the new moon phase, I know that even if life is busy, things get crazy, there's going to be another new moon phase in 29 and a half days. So if I miss it, if I'm not taking care of myself as well as I would like to be during that phase, I know that it's coming around again, and I'll have another opportunity to use that energy. And the next phase is another opportunity again. So the more you understand what each of these phases, the energy that's happening during the phases and how to use that energy, the easier it is, the more aligned it feels to take care of yourself and do the things you need to do every day.
I think this is such an important topic, especially with females. I mean, I work predominantly with females, and I think you work predominantly with females. And when women come into my world, they are not taking care of themselves. Simple as that. There's no self-care routine because there's an expectation from society for a woman to be everything. So we're mothers, we're caregivers, we're wives, we're homeowners, we're business owners, we're career driven. And it's only when I speak to the women about adding in this self-care, they're like, how? Because I think, like you've already mentioned, the majority of society live on a 24-hour cycle. And from the research that I've done and from what I've heard from yourself is that 24-hour cycle is actually a masculine cycle.
Yes.
Because men run on a 24-hour cycle, which is perfect for men. But
right.
it doesn't work very well for us women who naturally, once we become of a certain age, run on a monthly 26 to 30 day cycle. So it's a very interesting and wonderful topic, and I can't wait for us to share with everybody who's listening. I mean, even if you are a man who's listening, it's very interesting for you to understand how the moon cycle is actually affecting you as well. Although you're not a woman who has a general 28-day cycle, the moon does affect men as well as women.
Absolutely. It affects all of us.
And
100%.
That's quite important to point out there that it's not just women that are impacted by the gravitational pull and the phases of the moon. It's men as well.
Yes.
So it's important.
And the more we understand each other, the better off we all are. If we can be more compassionate toward other people, if we can understand that full moon, we all know the full moon, the energy, emotions can run high. And so if we know that, if we are aware of that and we're taking that into consideration as we move throughout our day and interact with people, because most days you interact with somebody, family, or you're leaving your home and interacting, you can come to those interactions with more compassion and kindness. And if you've done the things to take care of yourself and giving yourself filled your cup first, you're then able to interact with everyone around you better. It just makes everything better when you are. I want to come back to this taking care of yourself thing, because it really is. This is my passion. This is my mission. This is why I do what I do. I am an occupational therapist. I have a master's degree in occupational therapy. And for many years, I was working in the clinical setting. So I was teaching people who had strokes or who had any kind of illness that set them back. I was teaching them how to do what we called ADLs, activities of daily living. And that was just like getting dressed and taking a shower and all the things you have to do to take care of yourself every day. And so I was helping people do that. And when I quit that, I still have this desire to help people in a non-traditional way. So I'm no longer in the clinical setting, but I'm still using my occupational therapy, what I've learned, to teach women how to be empowered with taking care of themselves. So I'm not necessarily teaching you how to put your socks on, but I am teaching you that if you need 10 minutes of meditation before you put your socks on, I'm teaching you that that's really important, that you take that time for yourself. And a lot of times it's a time issue. We tell ourselves, I don't have time to do this, or I don't. And my tough love is that if you aren't choosing to do it, it isn't a priority. You've made the decision with your actions that you are not making it a priority. And so I'm really trying to flip the script on, as we're mothers, we're, like you said, you listed all these responsibilities that we have. But for me, what I teach my clients and what I teach everyone that I come in contact with is you are your number one priority. It has to be you taking care of you. And a lot of people don't want that responsibility. And they say, nope, not for me. I'm out. No, my kids are more important than me. It's fine. And that's, everybody has to be on their own journey and path. But when you're ready that's what I'm here for. That's what I help you step into. That's what I help you embody. And that's what I help you become, is that you are taking care of you first.
That's exactly what I say to everybody who comes into my world, male or female.
Yes.
If
Everyone.
if
Yes.
somebody comes to me and they're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or burnt out or stressed with life, I was like, okay, tell me one thing that you've done for you today. And 99.9% will say nothing. And I'm like, well,
Yep.
that's where you start. You're stressed, you're overwhelmed. Do something for you. As you were talking about socks, put your socks on first.
Right.
The kids can come afterwards.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, you know that cliche or whatever they say, put your air mask on first when the plane's going down. It really is true.
Well,
You cannot fully take care of somebody until you first are taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, how useful would you be as a parent or a caregiver if you're shoving an oxygen mask on your child and you pass out?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Then both of you are without
Yep.
help. Whereas if you sort yourself out first, make sure you are well, then you look after the child, then you're both going to be well. Simple as that.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So
it is awesome.
I know you've had a nice little kind of sit down to kind of bring what you want to bring to this session. It's like I'm in session. I'm not. I'm doing a podcast.
I like to call them sesh. These are my sesh.
Yeah.
This is like, we have a coaching sesh. We have it's me feel cool, you know.
Yeah, we're doing a podcast
because I'm so not cool. Podcast sesh, right?
Yeah. So you've had a sit down about what you want to bring to this podcast, not sesh.
Yes. Yes.
So please, what is the first topic that came into your mind when you were thinking about the moon cycle, the self-care cycle, and what do you want to share with the audience that's listening?
So when I am teaching about the moon cycle, I connect it to self-care because that's just what I do. That's the first thing that I want people to be doing, is taking care of themselves. And I was thinking, when we talked about, you know, kind of coming together, how could we collab? What could we talk about? I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about the different phases of the moon and some activities and things that you can be thinking about and doing in your business. So that's that money piece of it, because businesses make us money. And so aligning kind of some of the activities that you have to do in your business with what phase of the moon that we're in. So I could just do a little brief overview of the different phases and talk about kind of what things I recommend attending to during those phases.
Go for it. Share your knowledge, wisdoms, and insights with everybody who's listening.
I'm going to keep it pretty basic. So the moon has 8 to 9 phases. I'm going to say, I think it's more like nine because we considering the dark moon, but I'll get to that. So the moon cycle starts with the new moon, and that is when you cannot see the moon in the night sky, right? And so it's coming off of what they call the dark moon, which makes sense, but I'll talk about the dark moon at the end of the cycle. So the new moon is a great time it's the beginning. So it's a great time to plant some seeds for what is coming. And it doesn't have to necessarily be what's coming in this next cycle. It can be in the next 2 to 3, 12, 15 cycles. So it can be long term, even years, right? But you're planting the seed. So you're deciding, you're choosing what it is you are going to focus on, what it is that you are bringing in to your business, your life, and whatever you determine that intention to be will then determine the actions that you take moving forward. So you'll keep coming back to that intention. And so an intention can be really anything, but it's I recommend people kind of keep it more, I don't want to say broad because I do like people to get specific, but it can
Yeah.
be something like, I am a connector. Like that could be my intention. And so moving forward throughout the cycle, I would be looking for ways that I can connect to other business owners, to customers, and really thinking about how I can, thinking outside the box of ways that I could make my connections deeper and m- m- I don't, more valuable isn't the word I'm looking for, but you're focusing your energies on this intention. So that was just an example. I'm a connector. Another intention could be, I am a communicator, or I communicate effectively, or I communicate clearly. So if that is your intention, then you will be putting yourself in situations that you will be challenging yourself to communicate more clearly. And maybe you're also learning about how to communicate more clearly. You're getting a coach, or you're doing, so these are things that come during the cycle. So at the new moon, you really just want to get quiet, maybe meditate, take some time for you, and listen to what your inner knowing, your intuition is telling you should be or will be the focus for, like I said, either that next cycle or the coming of cycles. There's no cookie cutter, like this is the same for everybody kind of thing. But at the new moon, it's a great time to quiet the noise, go inward, and really check in with yourself. What am I intending for this next moon cycle, or for the next couple moon cycles? So I really recommend doing that at the new moon. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any questions about that? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there may be some people on here who have never meditated before, that have never got
Okay.
quiet before, that are like,
Yes.
my life is so fast paced, I never get time to sit down. So, somebody who's brand new to
Mm-hmm.
listening to themselves. I mean, obviously, I'm
Mm-hmm.
well practiced, you're well practiced, we hear. We know how to sit and hear. So somebody who is brand
Yes.
new, he's looking to set one intention, the moon
Mm-hmm.
cycle, to practice what it means to live by the moon cycle. What can you suggest for them to do? I mean, I've got some ideas, but I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
The first thing I suggest is, I think many of us, or most of us, have AirPods or earbuds or headphones or something. I suggest, if you can squeak in 5 minutes, so either at the beginning of your day or at the end of your day, go on YouTube, type in 5-minute meditation intuition, those words, and a million things will come up. And I suggest a guided meditation from YouTube. And you can do any amount of time, but 5 minutes is, that's a great start. You could do 2 minutes. That's all you feel like you have, or that's all you can, all you really want to do. Then do 2 minutes. Whatever it is, nothing, there's no right or wrong here. It's just that you're practicing, that you're taking the step. And so that's what I suggest at first, is having that assist to help you, because I think sometimes we get in our mind that meditation has to be us sitting, like on a pillow, like, humming, chanting and all of the things. It doesn't. In meditation, for me, I meditate when I'm on the yoga mat, when I'm at a yoga class. I'm completely inward meditate. Like that's a total meditation for me. I meditate when I stand in line at the grocery store. And usually the way I do that is by focusing on my breath. So any type of breath work I consider to be meditation, because you are coming back to yourself and this breath. And there's lots of different ways to meditate. And I believe that there's no right or wrong way. The only stipulation is that you are creating the time and space for yourself. And B, you are coming back into your inner, what's happening inside of you, and letting go of what's happening around you. And so that's what I feel that meditation is. That would be a great place to start.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I started with right at the very beginning, because when I started my journey with it, I had my son wasn't even 1, so there wasn't a lot of quiet time.
Mm-hmm.
When I had a shower,
Mm.
that is when it's a time when you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when I started listening to the thoughts in my head. And the thoughts in your head are your intuition.
Yes.
And I still now get the majority of my ideas while I'm in the shower, which is very awkward because you're all wet. You can't write them.
There are shower notes. Did you know they make
I
notes
did
for
not.
the shower? I'll send you a link for them.
But what I have started doing is voicing them.
Yes.
I voice them out loud because if you say what's in your mind, there's a higher chance that you're going to remember it once you do get out of the shower. So I think if you are a busy man or woman who is looking to try and get in tune with the moon, when you're having a shower, and this is something that everybody does, we either have a shower or we have a bath. All of us do this. So that is a very good time where you get time and you can just let go. So I think that would be a really good time for you to start listening.
Yes.
You don't even have to do anything with it straight away. Just start having a shower and start listening. And the more you practice, the more you'll be like, all these little insights will keep popping into your mind. So yeah, that's what I was going to add in there.
That's an amazing way to, it's accessible for everyone. And yes, it's simple. That's what I love about it. It's so good.
Oh yeah, I'm all for simplicity.
Yes. Yep. And bundling it with something you're already doing is awesome. Yes.
Exactly. It's atomic habits that is in my head.
Yes.
Habit stacking, meditate while having a shower.
Yep. I've heard of shower meditations where you imagine the water washing over you and washing away any of those anxious thoughts or things that you have been carrying with you. So that's another, like, a little bit more specific and focused. And when you get comfortable with listening to yourself and your inner self, really trying to bring attention to. That's basically what you're doing with meditation. You're bringing attention to what's happening in here and in here.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So that is the new moon. Those are some great tips to get started with meditation, getting quiet. That is really the core of what I teach women to do, is quiet the noise outside so that they can come back to what their intuition, what their inner knowing is trying to tell them. So I love those tips. Thank you for adding to that. Okay, so the next phase, so moving from the new moon, so between the new moon and the full moon, there are 2 weeks. And in that time, the moon is what we call waxing. And there's 3 different phases, but I think for understanding purposes, we're just going to talk about the waxing phase in general. And so the waxing phase is when the moon is building. So at first we start to see that little crescent in the sky, and that is called the waxing crescent moon. And so we start seeing that it starts to appear, and then keeps every night it gets bigger and bigger. And then pretty soon we're at the first quarter moon, where it's like a semicircle in the sky. And then it gets bigger and bigger. I like to say that it's kind of bulging. It's getting ready to be full. Yeah. And that is the waxing gibbous moon. So those are but I'm not going to get into the nitty gritties of those. We're just going to talk about the waxing moon is when things start, I said, kind of building. energy is increasing. This is the time when you're doing the work towards your intention. This is the time when you are doing the daily action steps to make whatever your intention is come true in your life by doing the thing, right? And then the first quarter moon, so in between the new moon and the full moon, is a great time to check in with yourself. So you've been at this for 7 days. It's in the middle of this waxing moon. It's a great time to check in and say, is this working? And it's not going to work in just 7 days, but is this something I want to continue? Does this still feel aligned with where I'm going and what I'm wanting out of my business and my self-care and all of the things, right? So the first quarter moon is a great time to check in. So any questions about that or anything to add to that?
I don't think so. I think that's new for me, kind of checking in with the quarter moon, which I think at the time of recording this, we're literally just about on the first quarter moon because the new moon was last Thursday.
Yep,
and
we're getting close.
Wednesday today,
Yes.
so we're on the first quarter moon now. So I've got some work to do tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the moon is if you stick to these, if you decide like, okay, first quarter moon is when I check in with my intention, it becomes second nature once you've done it a couple cycles, and it's like it's built in then. You don't have to think about it because that's just, okay, I'm following the moon. I know it's the first quarter. I know I'm going to take a little bit of space to check in and make sure that the actions that I'm taking are getting me to living out what I have intended. And it's just that mindfulness of, am I living the life that I say that I want and that I'm intending? So this is also bringing it back to business. This is a great time to make some business like decisions. Like if you're thinking about hiring a coach, or you're thinking about investing in something for your business, your branding or your website, this is a great time to take this building energy and put yourself out there a little bit, meet some new people, and make these decisions in your business based on this intention you have set at the new moon.
Yeah, and I think what I found naturally comes from setting the intentions is that opportunities aligned with what you're intending to do actually come towards you.
Yes, absolutely.
If you are very strong in your intention and you are taking those actions, opportunities will place themselves in front of you. And
yes, they will.
I think what the I'm not going to say difficult thing is, the less easy thing to do is to spot them and to know which ones to say yes to and which ones to say no to.
Yep.
But that again comes with practice when you are, because I generally, if I'm trying to make a decision on a yes or no, I'll go with that gut instinct. If there's something that feels off to me about doing something, I'll say no, because it's not aligned. Whereas if I get excited by it, I'll go, yeah, let's give it a go and see what happens.
Yes. Yep. So you're taking both the moon phase and your own knowing, right? And you're using both to help you make informed decisions. That's going to get you to the outcome that you are desiring.
Yeah, I think what might be difficult for some people who've never done this before is, especially if they are one of those very masculine, logical thinkers, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to have a masculine mind.
Right.
We're all a balance of masculine and feminine, both men and women. But there are some people who get very analytical about making choices and decisions, which is great. However, sometimes you need to also lean into that gut feeling.
Yes.
Because you will know, whatever the statistics and the results say, you will know inside, if you tap into how you're feeling, you will know if it's the right decision or not. Even if it looks great on a sheet of paper, if inside is screaming, no, don't do it, then it's very high chance it's not a very good decision to make.
Right. I think that as you're speaking and I'm listening, I think there's some fear. I know that there's fear around when people talk about listening to their gut.
Yes.
There's this fear around, what if my gut tells me what I don't want to hear? Right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that we should address that because that is a
Definitely.
real thing. And it really does take courage to, I mean, I think we've been talking about intuition and getting in touch with your inner knowing. I think a piece that we sometimes don't acknowledge is that it does take courage to connect with your inner self, because sometimes what you think is the right next step, you know, deep down it isn't, or vice versa, right?
Yeah, and you have this internal conflict.
Yes. Yes. And it feels very uncomfortable. That feels, I recognize and acknowledge that, yes, that does feel uncomfortable. And it's necessary. We are so, we're such a, as humans, we want to be comfortable. Nobody wants to feel uncomfortable, right? And that's just who we are, and what we do everything to be comforted. But being uncomfortable is necessary for our growth and our evolution.
Yeah.
So recognizing that and acknowledging, I do see, like, sometimes, I mean, there could be, if you're listening to this and you're having some like red flags go up, like, I'm not doing that. That sounds horrible. I'm not. That's your intuition telling you that this is something you probably need to look into and explore and soften around. And know that it does take courage, and like getting past some of that fear that these things are not going to feel comfortable all the time.
Yeah, I think it's a saying I say and hear a lot, is growth comes from getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yep.
That's when you know you're in a growth zone, is because inside you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's taken me a long time to learn to go, woo, I feel uncomfortable.
Woo!
So I get excited
it.
about it now, because I know I'm in a growth zone.
I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing. Yeah. Yes. So good. Yep.
Yeah, very good kind of interjection there around kind of how we could be feeling around that.
Yes. Yep.
Moon.
Trust me, I have felt it all. I still feel it. I still feel the fear. I still have, and I choose courage over that, because
sorry, I bet to say there's probably never going to be a point that you don't feel that.
Right. Absolutely.
Because there is no end to the evolution.
Yep.
There
is an end, but
there's something kind of pop into my head right now, is the fact that if people jump on this self-evolution, self-development journey, they think, oh, when I get to blah, 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 will be blah. And what you'll find is that when you get to blah, it's still, it's just, you've just grown. There is no, it's a never-ending mountain to climb. And that's the fun of it. It's because you know you're going somewhere exciting. There may be clouds above you. I have no idea what's above your head, but you carry on regardless. And you go through those clouds, you have a bit of clear sky, you have clarity in your mind, and then the clouds come back again.
Yep.
And that is the journey.
Yep.
And what you will find, if you look to your left, there's somebody on a different side, a different
Yes.
slope to you. You look to your right, there's somebody else. You look down, there's somebody else. You look up, there's somebody else. And we're all on our own journey up this mountain. And the worst thing you can do is to start comparing yourself to Joe Bloggs over there and
Yeah.
Joe Bloggs over there. And well, why are they up there when I'm down here? Because we're all on our own journey and we all take the steps we need to take to get to where we want to get to.
Yes.
Through that cloud bank to get clarity for another cloud bank to come over.
Yes. That is a beautiful analogy. Yes.
I
And
picture in my head of it all.
to note that you're not alone.
No.
You're never alone. There's always support and care and people around you. And that's the beauty of it. And you nailed it. Yes, you nailed it when you said fun.
Yeah.
Like, just have fun with it. Fun is my word for 2024. Everything I do, everything I'm creating, I'm coming back to, is this fun? Am I having fun? And if the answer is no, I'm out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
made toothbrushing fun
Right.
this evening.
Yep.
Because why not?
Yep. And your kids are gonna love that if you're fun.
Exactly. It makes
they listen better.
It makes a very tedious daily task that generally my 4-year-old does not want to do.
Yep.
Fun. And it's nicer for me and it's nicer for him. Simple as that.
Yep.
So I get the fun.
So have more fun. So this actually is a great segue into the full moon. So the full moon can get a bad reputation because this is when it's super bright in the sky. It's full. It's as big as it as we're going to see it. And that means that it's illuminating and shining a light on some of the shadows that we may have, some of the things that we normally keep hidden or we don't address or like to talk about. The moon can bring all that up. So the moon tends to, so I think about emotions as the emotions are connected to water. They're kind of flowy, fluid. And so your emotions are affected by the moon because we said the moon affects the water, right? Emotions are energy in motion. So the moon illuminated in the sky as big as it can be, full moon brings to surface these emotions. And sometimes, like I said, it's the shadow emotions that we haven't let into the light or been open to allowing them to flow out of us or worked through, right? And so that's why the full moon for some can feel hard sometimes.
Do you know what the picture I've got in my mind? Because a lot of people associate the full moon with werewolves.
Yes. Yep.
And when you're talking about emotions coming to the surface and coming out and shining what you don't want others or yourself to see, that is exactly how fiction depicts werewolves.
Yes, it is.
At the full moon, they come out.
Yes.
And they're dangerous and they want to hide from people and they hurt people. And that is exactly what emotions can do.
Yes.
If you let them.
Yes. Nailed it. If you let them. Yep. So the full moon, there is that side of it. And the other side of it is the full moon in history has been a time that people come together because the night sky is illuminated. It's easier for people to travel, to come together. And so this was way back in the day, this was a time that women would come together and celebrate. So the new moon is also about celebration, and that's the piece that I love. I do not think that we take time to celebrate and acknowledge all of the amazingness in our life, all of the good things that are happening to us, because we're on that hamster wheel of keeping going, right? We're trying to do all the things and get all the things done and achieve all the things. But so if you associate the full moon with celebration every time, every month you're coming back around to what is going right? What am I loving about my life? What am I loving about my business? What opportunities have come to me that have been so amazing? So this is a great chance to look at work that you've done and acknowledge yourself for all of that work.
I love that.
Me
I think
too. Who doesn't love celebration?
Celebration is a huge part of my daily practice.
Yes.
We talked about it in my academy on Monday and last week about how important it is to recognise within us what we have created from choices that we've made every single day.
Yep.
Whereas, say we've been faced with a difficult situation and we chose a different path than what we would have done, and the outcome was incredible.
Yes.
And it's just celebrating the small and the big.
Yes.
I think celebration has been given to birthdays, weddings, and babies, and all this Christmas, Thanksgiving, and all this sort of stuff. Whereas celebration is something to be done every single day.
Agreed. Yep. So the full moon also, like I mentioned, is a beautiful time to gather. And so business-wise, this would be a great time around the full moon to meet with your business besties, the people that you connect with, and do some celebration together, acknowledging each other, acknowledging yourself. Really, you mentioned saying things out loud, really vocalizing and putting them out into the world. The more abundance you notice, the more abundant your life will be.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yep.
I could go into why that works, but I won't.
Right. That's we might have to do another podcast. So the full moon is all about celebration, abundance, and gathering. That's what I like to think of. And so how can I infuse those themes into my life and business around that time? And then those are the actions I take. I also wrote down this would be a great time to meet with your financial planner, maybe get some insight into, because the energy, it could go both ways. But if you are coming into those conversations from an abundance mindset, you've done the work on the celebrating, you've seen how abundant your life actually is. This is a great time to come together with your accountant or your financial planner and talk about, look at what I've built and where are we going moving forward, right?
I love it.
Yeah, me too. I love it too. Okay, so I do love the full moon. I know it can be challenging. I've had full moons where I've been in the ER, and that is not great. But it is all part of life, really. So
it is. If you think about, like we've mentioned, it's all about energy, and energy flows.
Yes.
And with anything that flows, there's peaks and troughs, ebbs and flows.
Yes.
So you've got to take the good with the bad.
Right.
Because with having that expectation that it's always going to be great, you are going to end up disappointed. Whereas if you just lean into the flow of what's occurring in your life and then still find things to celebrate within the lows and the highs.
Yes. I like that low and high better. I'm really trying to get away from labeling things as good and bad.
Yeah.
For me, just me personally, I've been working through some things about myself being good and feeling there's been things there. So I'm on a journey of staying neutral about things, even though, and that's why I really like when you said highs and lows, because we all have them, right?
You do, yeah.
And how you label them and talk about them to yourself and other people makes a difference,
Oh,
really,
it does.
in how you respond and react to them.
That's exactly the journey that I am on. I'm practicing just being with the flow.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Being with the flow of life and having that acceptance in a way of this is happening because this is supposed to happen. And it is not for me to decide whether it's good or bad.
Right. Yep. Accepting what is. Yep.
So yeah, I am on that journey, and it takes practice, a lot of
Oh my goodness, so much practice. Constantly, all the time.
Yes.
And it's worth it because the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. It becomes more, I mean, the more I practice, the more I'm aware of it and can catch myself. And then it does become, I do believe it becomes easier
Oh, it does.
as
It
you
becomes
practice. Yeah.
part of your natural state of
Yes.
being.
Yes. Yep.
But it does take practice. And I think sometimes when we talk about this self-development and the journey that it is, I know I myself, when I first started, stepping into a space where people have been on the journey longer, I had this feeling that I had to be the same as them. I had to be that developed. However, it takes time and practice, and the compound effect of what you are achieving on a day-to-day basis to be on your own journey with it. You are never going to be the same as anybody else because you are not them, you are you.
I know, that's so amazing.
And I think that is a huge kind of thing to point out, that although me and you might be talking here about self-development, celebration, being at one with life and all this, but I've been on this journey realistically about 12 years, and I've only gone really deep with it within the last 3. So to step into it from nothing and to say, oh, I need to think like Mary, I need to think like Leah, it's not going to happen. Not straight away. Because your way of thinking may not be the same as mine and Mary's, because you may not want to be like that. And that's perfect.
Yes.
So, yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
I love that. Yes, it's beautiful. And I acknowledge you for this journey that you are on. Oh my goodness. I have known you for a little over a year maybe, and just the growth that and evolution that has happened in that time has been really an honor to watch.
It's taken practice and a lot of
I
work.
know, it's hard work. That's why I'm acknowledging you for it.
And a lot of tears.
Yes, so many tears. Yep.
Lots and lots
But tears
of
are
tears.
good.
Oh,
They
yeah.
need to be released. Tears are so good.
And I'm going to respond to you with, thank you for noticing, Mary.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yep. Okay, so let's move on to the waning moon. Before we do that, though, I do have to say I'm loving this conversation. So thank you for having me. This has been so good. Just so many great topics. Okay, so the waning moon. So now we've peaked. The full moon has come to its peak, and it starts to look smaller in the night sky. So I always say it starts to get smaller, and then I have to correct myself because we know the moon stays the same size all the time, right? But it's just what we can see of it. It's what is reflecting, the sun is reflecting off of it, right? So it starts to get smaller, and like the waxing phase, the waning phase also has 3 phases. So it starts the waning gibbous moon, where it's is still bulged, and then it comes to the last quarter where it's a semicircle, and then it starts going to the crescent phase, the waning crescent, and then we are cycle again, right? The dark moon and then the new moon. So during the waning period is a great time to, so we've already talked a little bit about this, is to go inward. So this is from a business standpoint, the last 2 weeks in the cycle, the moon cycle, is a great time to get the back end of your business in order. So any of the like bookkeeping, accounting things that you've been putting off, maybe,
Never.
this would be a good time. I know, the filing, the digital files, clearing out. So the waning moon, I actually have a Moon and Me membership where I drop little Voxer notes, and Leah is a part of it. And this is the time I encourage the people in this membership to create a purge list. So this is the time where if you know there's areas in your business, so we're talking just business here, but you can use this for life as well. If you know there's areas that things that you've been putting aside, like I need to clean out the files on my computer, or I need to clean out my inbox, or I'd like to clean out my blogs and start to get some of those published, right? Just these things that kind of weigh over us a little bit, these tasks, create a list. So this is a purge list. And you are then at each waning moon, so the second half of the moon cycle, that's when you pull out your purge list and say, I'm going to get one of these things knocked off this list. And if you're consistent with that, if you stay with that, eventually, I mean, the list may continue to grow, but eventually you'll be moving, you'll be taking action, you'll be doing at least one thing during this second half of the moon cycle that's going to move you forward. And what I recommend is coming back to intention that you set. If you're trying to decide which purge thing to do, connect it back to what was I intending at the beginning of the moon cycle? What kind of actions am I taking to get there? And then what from my purge list would align with getting me closer to this intention that I set at the beginning?
I love that.
I love this phase. I love purging. I love releasing. I love letting go. It feels so amazing and good. I do, there's so many different ways to approach this. It could be purging negative thoughts, right? Like there's so many ways, but it's getting rid of, releasing, and allowing these things to move through so that when the cycle starts again, you're ready for whatever new is coming for you.
Perfect. It's like it's meant to be.
Yes, it is. It is. It's weird. It's like nature knew what it was doing or something. I don't know. It's weird. So the other piece of that, kind of during this first, like right after the full moon, depending on how intense it was for you, this is a great time to, I'm going to talk a little bit life here, but I think life and business go hand in hand. This is a great time to notice how your nervous system is responding to the intensity of the moon, and giving yourself some space right after the full moon to calm your body and your nerves. So choosing activities, maybe doing some restorative like stretching, or even just like clearing a few days from, or even a couple hours from your schedule if you feel like your schedule's tight. Doing something that's going to calm yourself, that's going to feel really good in your body, is what I recommend right after the intensity of the full moon. This would be a great time to schedule massages for, if you get massages, or if you like to get your nails done or a haircut even, like that would be a great time to schedule something like that.
That I wouldn't even just call it self-care. It's just something that, well, I'm going to use your phrase, something off your pleasure list.
Yes.
I did a workshop with Mary and Renata, who's has also been on the podcast, and we did a pleasure list. And if I just look over here, I've got 50 items printed off on my pleasure list.
I love it.
Of things that I can do when I feel like I need that boost of feel good hormones.
Yes.
I mean, some of them are really easy. Like some of them are singing, dancing, cooking, chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be.
I'm in.
It doesn't have to be something that you have to go out the house for, or something that you've got to pay for.
Yep.
It can be something as simple as lying down for 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I did that this morning and it felt amazing.
Yep. Yep. And the more in tune you are with your own cues, the more you're able and honor those cues, the more you're able to give yourself those pleasure stacks because you know what you need. And that's just the beauty of it. Yep. And you're just a better, happier person if you're giving yourself what you need, if your needs are met. Yep. Yep.
Totally.
I love that. So after the last quarter, that last week of the moon cycle, would be a great time to work with your money coach to dig into some of the things that came up during the full moon. And I kind of consider that back end business stuff. Like I know I talked about like the bookkeeping and counting, but like the side that people don't see, right? The stuff that's happening internally, like we're all working through our own personal things, which then translate over into business, how we're showing up, how we're creating our business to be. So this is a great time. I think everybody needs a coach in some way, shape, or form. Having a money coach is really important. And it's a great time to look at the beliefs that you have that kind of came up during maybe the full moon or whatever throughout this moon cycle. Were there beliefs that you have around money that maybe need to go? Maybe they don't serve you anymore. Maybe they don't make sense with where you're at in your journey. And this is a great time to let those beliefs and let those go and be done with them and choose and figure out what your new beliefs are moving forward, which will then be what you intend in the new moon, right?
Yeah, I think a good way that you can spot if there is a belief, whether it be around money or anything, is if you set these intentions and the thoughts you're having in your mind is, I can't. And believe it or not, that phrase in itself is a belief that's blocking you from believing you can have absolutely anything that you want. So if you are saying I can't to anything that you are intending on that new moon, and especially if that's popping up when you get to that full moon cycle, there's a belief in your system. You may not even know what it is. There's a belief in there that's generally about who you are and your own self-belief that's stopping you from achieving exactly what you want.
Yes.
So anybody who's listening who is having those thoughts in their mind of I can't, check in with that. Check in with whether you believe that you can't. Because in my world, I can't doesn't exist.
I love that. I have to emphasize again, like when you're saying check in with these things, having another person to help you see some of these blind spots. And that's why I say a money coach or some kind of coach, life coach, counselor, therapist, whatever it is that works for you. We are not meant to do this alone.
No.
We just aren't. And if you're trying to do it alone, you may get somewhere, but you're going to get so much further by doing it with other people, a coach or in a program or whatever it is that aligns with what you are needing and wanting at the time. But I just want to emphasize that we're not meant to do this alone.
No, I mean, what I found with some people I speak to that are like, oh, give me advice. So I give them advice and explain, and they struggle to achieve or get on with what I've set them. It's because you are trying to coach your own mind with your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up with that heart mind battle going on when you are trying to work through something with yourself. A belief that you have about yourself with yourself actually eventually ends up giving yourself evidence that you can't think differently.
Right.
And that's where that additional person, be it a coach, like you said, a therapist, or even a best friend.
Yep.
Even just talking to a best friend about thoughts in your mind, that different perspective that they have on the situation can help you reframe.
Yes, most definitely. Invaluable.
Yeah, I would say
highly recommend.
yeah, I would not suggest going to a friend who is going to egg on your belief.
Right. Yeah, you want somebody to show you your blind spots and be honest with you.
We have an innate ability as human beings to attract people who think the same as us.
Yes.
Which is great because
it's comfortable.
We have things in common, we think the same. However, when you are working through your own stuff, if you have a belief and another friend of yours has the same belief, you are going to feed each other's beliefs.
Right.
So that won't work.
Mm-hmm.
What it will do, it will just make the belief even stronger.
Right. You'll stay where you are. Yep.
100%.
We both know. Yes. It's so valuable. Yep. So that the waning moon is also a time when you could learn a new skill or really dig into that course that you bought during the waxing moon. And during the waxing moon, I didn't mention this, but the phase the phase building up to the full moon is a great time to be out in public for your business. So doing the live videos, getting out on podcasts, putting yourself and what you have to offer out there to the world. And then the second half of the moon cycle is, like I said, more inward, like that back end side of your business, really looking at how things are working in your systems and
what went well, what
but if you have
well.
Yes, if you have both and you're consistent with following these phases, you're going to be hitting all parts of your business every moon cycle. I love it so much. Okay, so there's one more phase I want to talk about. This is the phase I was talking about at the beginning. It's called the dark moon, and it's the 3 days leading up to what they say is the new moon. There's some it depends on how you feel in these phases. So I also want to emphasize that it may say that the new moon is on whatever date it is, and you don't really feel that energy until you actually see the new moon or a couple days after or a week after. Sometimes it just depends. Like I said, always check in with yourself and see how you're feeling. You can continue to follow these phases based on what's happening in your life, right? So the dark moon, they say, is the 3 days leading up to the new moon. So I always check out when the new moon is, and then I count backwards 3 days, and I know that that's when the dark moon happens. And so it's the night sky is very dark. We can see the stars because the moon is not shining. And this is a really fun time. Like this has really become my favorite part of the whole cycle. It's the end. And so it is, I've done a lot of work around it. I think that's why it's become my favorite part. But at first, it can feel intimidating because it is associated with death and ending and just being done with whatever it is you need to be done with. And so the waning period, we talked about purging and releasing, and like this is the final step. Like this is it. Like the dark moon is when we reckon with whatever we need to be reckoning with. We release, we let go. I really suggest if you're working on, this doesn't necessarily have to do with business, but energetically, if you're still feeling like resentment toward anybody in your life or yourself, or you have these like feelings that maybe came up during the new moon or the full moon, this is the perfect time. I love to recommend doing some kind of like forgiveness meditation or like a cutting cords meditation. So those 3 days are a really potent time to use that energy to finally release and let go and end whatever it is that you've kind of been pulling through and bringing with you. And if you are able to let go of some of those emotions and energy, that there's just more beautiful, abundant things coming in the next moon cycle. It's just such a beautiful, that's cyclical living, birth and death and rebirth, and it goes on and on and on. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, if we liken it to the seasons,
Yes.
because we are currently in winter, so everything's sleeping.
Yes.
Nature is asleep.
We're really in a dark moon phase.
Yeah, so you can liken the moon phases to the seasons that are happening in the world. So we're all asleep right now.
Yes.
However,
Yep.
I'm seeing buds appearing on the trees and plants shooting up because the weather's been quite mild over here.
Yeah.
And now it's gone cold again. So there's a very high chance that they're going to kind of go, we're not
I
supposed to
know.
be
The
here yet.
plants. Yeah. Don't get me started on that. I own a nursery, and so I'm like, our plants. The weather hasn't been. Oh, yeah. It'll be interesting to see what plants do in the spring finally with the weather. It's been so weird.
Yeah. But if you kind of
yes.
think of the moon phases like the seasons, the 4 seasons.
Yes. Yes.
And then you can understand the energies that are occurring. Because we all feel different. I know I feel quite hibernating in the winter. We don't want to go out, we don't want to do things, we want to snuggle up in big warm coats and stay indoors. And that is the kind of waning moon, dark moon energy.
Yep.
And then you get the spring, which is the waxing moon. The full moon is summer, when we're all energetic and we can do anything. And then we start to close down. The leaves fall off the trees. The plants go back inside the earth, which is the waning moon at the beginning. And that for me is the energies that I associate with the moon. But we've got to also remember that's actually happening in nature as well, and it's like
yes. Yes.
So many different energies occurring all at the same time.
Yes, but as you pay attention and learn about these energies, it's information is essentially it's data for me. Like I'm a science brain. I love collecting information, and so I'm a female, and so I cycle as well within the same kind of pattern. I can connect my phases to the seasons and the moon phases. So all of these things. So if I know I'm in my follicular phase and that aligns with the waning moon period, I may have some conflicting energies, right? Because the follicular phase, when my menstrual cycle, that's when I'm getting out, I'm preparing for ovulation, I'm looking for a mate, right? In evolution. And but the moon may be waning, and so that's bringing this, coming, going inward, and that inner energy. I might feel a little conflicted, or I might feel, depending on if I'm more connected to my cycle or I'm connected to the moon, it ebbs and flows. But having that information, knowing that, helps me honor where my body is at, where nature is at, and then adding in the season too. Like maybe it's winter and I'm like, why am I struggling to put myself out there? Because it's my follicular phase, the moon's aligned, it's all good, but I'm in this winter season where I do need rest because I've been going on all these other seasons. So I think that's such a thank you for bringing up the seasonal piece of it, because I think that we just kind of keep going day by day by day, and it's really important to look at the bigger picture of the cycles happening in our life and in nature.
Yeah, I mean that there is more going on than the moon.
Yes.
It's a nice monthly cyclical guidance, but we do
Yes.
have the natural seasons that are occurring
Yes.
outside. And as women, we have our own cycles that do, if you think about what you've just said about like the new moon is the bleed phase.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the full moon, which is the ovulation phase, and that's how the energies work. And you may, like you've just said, have it the other way around, where you're bleeding on the full moon, where you're supposed to,
right.
Supposed to. I've got quotations
right.
for those who are listening. Supposed to be out there and be energetic. However, you're in your bleed phase, which is more like the winter, where you want to hibernate and be indoors. And it's literally just come to me of just go with what feels right for you.
Yes.
Regardless of what the moon's doing, what the Mother Nature's doing, what your female cycle is doing, do what feels right for you. So it's all of, we've now got the information of how the moon cycle makes us feel. Us as women know how our monthly cycle makes us feel. And everybody on the planet knows how the seasons make us feel. It's just having that awareness to go, okay, so it's in winter, but I'm feeling really energetic. Go with it. Go and create. Right. Go and put yourself out there. Go and share with the world who you are. If you've got the energy, use it.
Yes. Yes. Which brings us back to what we talked about at the very beginning. It's that inner knowing. It's that listening to yourself and honoring that, choosing to honor that. Sometimes we hear ourselves and then we choose other things because we think we should be or supposed to be, like you said in quotations. But really getting quiet and listening to what you're feeling and feeling it and allowing that. Many of us choose distracting activities, myself included, like scrolling on Instagram or the things that kind of numb us out. We choose to do those things and then we lose touch with how we are really feeling because we're seeing how everyone is sharing about how they're doing what they're doing. So I think that it's really important to come back to, like, that's exactly what we said in the beginning, what you just said now. It's listening to what your body is needing, what you are needing, and then doing that.
Yeah, and I think that something that I know I've had to practice at is actually listening and actually taking action on how you're feeling. Because what you will find is if you keep hustling, is the word I'm going to use. If you keep hustling when your body is physically screaming at you to stop, you will kind of, you won't reap the rewards. You will burn out. And that's what burnout is not listening to what your physical body needs.
Yep, the cues. Yep. Which is why I created a retreat called the Slowdown Retreat. And I created this retreat to be a weekend where women can come together and do just that. That's the only thing they have to do all weekend long is check in with themselves. And it's a practice, and we get to practice it the whole weekend with the support of other women who are wanting that as well. And the connections and when I say connections with other women, but most importantly, the connection you have to yourself. So that's an entire weekend where you ask yourself, what is going to feel good for me right now? And without hesitation, that's what you do. And that is what the whole weekend includes. There's no schedule. The only schedule is when we eat. Because we all eat yummy meals together. But that is the reason I created that weekend. Is there's in our daily lives, there is, I say it all the time, there's so much noise, there's so much distraction, there's so many things telling us how we should feel, what we should be doing. And spending an entire weekend separate from that is just like exponentially giving you, you can practice on your own at home in these little bits, which I think is amazing, but having that entire space of a weekend that you've committed to yourself, there's so many other layers of it, but having that chance, that extended period of time to practice that, then when you return home, you're able to come back to that more easily.
Yeah.
There it is again.
I think what you just said, that it's practicing it, because obviously being in away from your home, away from the general distractions of being at home, you've got cleaning, washing, children, partners, whatever it is that's going on in your life when you're away from home, and especially when you've got somebody like Renata cooking for you, so you don't have to think
right. Right.
It just takes the pressure off of everything.
Yes.
You are just there to be there.
That's it. You're just there to be there. That's it.
And
to be.
Because we are human doings these days.
Yes, we are. Yes,
there's always something to do.
Yep.
But how often do we take the time in our day-to-day life to be? That's what I'm practicing on a day-to-day basis now, is to just be.
Yes.
Whether
my intent with the retreat is that you feel that so deeply and so often during the retreat, you feel that connection to yourself, that you're building that. So when you do go home back to all of the things that are happening at your home, you're able to come back to that feeling because you've practiced it, and you've practiced it a lot that weekend. Yep.
Oh, well, I wish I was over in America.
I do too. Make airplanes that fly from the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming.
It will happen.
Yep.
I'm manifesting
For sure.
it. I've told you that before.
Yes, I love that, and I am here for it. And I will be here doing the Slowdown retreats. They are so valuable to the women that have committed to being in the space, and I have no plans to stop them. So hopefully for years to come, we're still gathering and connecting with other women and with ourselves.
Brilliant.
Yes.
I think we've been chatting for a long time.
Yes, it's just so easy.
To close off the podcast, what are your last bits of advice, tips, things that people can be doing, whether male or female, to start to slow down and to start
Mhm,
being with themselves?
mhm. The first thing I suggest is to physically slow down, to really sink into your life as it is and notice when you're rushing. And you can borrow my 4-year-old if you'd like, because it took us 10 minutes to walk across a parking lot that would take normal people 2 today. But I have noticed and really tried to pay attention to when I'm with my children to be completely present and at their speed. I mean, I know I can't do that all the time, but when I can, I am offering that to them. And it's amazing what you see and what you feel and how your experiences are so much richer when you are slowed down to notice and experience them.
I think what I'm going to add in there is children at the age of 4, they don't have the worries, the stresses, the
Hmm.
time constraints that we
Yes.
put on ourselves. So they are a perfect example of how to slow down to the pace of life.
Hmm.
Yesterday, I walked home with my little boy. It took us 45 minutes to do a 10-minute journey, which is perfect. He wanted to
Yes.
walk along the canal, and the canal by me is frozen over because of the weather.
Hmm.
And he was throwing stones on the canal and listening to the noise
Hmm.
of the stones hitting the ice.
Hmm.
And it was beautiful. And he found a stick. He called it his magic stick. And he was doing magic tricks with this stick. And it's now
Hmm.
outside my house, this magic stick.
Yep.
Um, and it was beautiful.
Yep.
I was just with him, watching him, and being on his level of curiosity. So I think anybody who's got a 4-year-old, pace of your 4-year-old,
Yes.
and that's what it means to slow down to the pace of life.
Hmm. Yes. So that is a simple tip, but it is not easy because we're used to,
Mm.
moving quickly. So that would be what I would suggest people try to do at some points, especially if you are, having coffee with a friend or you are having dinner with your family during those moments where um, you're filling your own cup. It's a pleasure snack, right? But you really being in those moments and slowing down to really take in all of the amazingness that's happening when you're connecting with another person or other people.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest things that take us out of presence, for those of you who are listening, I'm holding up my mobile phone,
Yes.
um, and I make a conscious effort from 2024, part of who I'm being 2024 is to put it down every day while I'm with my kids after school.
Yep.
So it's on the side, it's out the way, and it's not leading to me taking myself out of being
Hmm.
with my kids. And you don't have to just do it when you've got your kids.
Yep.
Put Phones these days are huge distractions on time. They're a huge pull on being. They're a
Yep.
huge pull on procrastination. Just put it down. Put
Hmm.
it on silent. Put it on do not disturb. there's literally probably nothing that important going on it. There's nothing more important on there than you.
Yeah.
Don't give it so much power.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's a huge distraction. I really believe that it's uncomfortable for many people to
Oh
just
yeah,
be. And so the phone provides a distraction from that discomfort. We already
an
talked about
escape,
that. Yep. An
escape
escape.
from.
Yep.
It's
So
a
I
escape
have
from
really,
who you
one
are.
thing that one thing that I have tried to incorporate is I always have a book with me, like a physical book. And when I'm waiting in line or I'm waiting at the doctor's office or waiting for anything, school pickup, all the things, I choose to either just be, or, books can be distractions too, but at least it's not my phone, right? Like, so I'm like taking baby steps to getting to just being, just hanging out by myself, not doing anything. So, yeah, I think that, yeah, that's a really good tip.
We're all out of practice from just being.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Everybody.
because I don't know about you, but I'm of the generation when mobile phones have just become. I think I got my first one when I was 12. I mean, obviously, when I was 12, they were very simple. There was no
Right.
Facebook, there was no
Right.
Gram or Zoom or whatever.
Right.
There was none of that on phones back then. However, we are setting an example for the next generation. So if we are, say, sitting, waiting, and we're on our phones, we're showing the next generation this is what you need to do when you're waiting. You need to be doing something. But it's new, isn't it? So we're all still learning about what it means to live in a life with connection to the whole entire world at our hands, wherever we are.
Yep.
So we're not going to get it right all the time.
Right.
We're all still learning. So don't beat yourself up if that is what you do and that is what you choose to do. If you think how long mobile phones have been in existence and how long we've been like not had that gratification that we get in our brains, that dopamine hit that we get from touching our phones, it's like a drug. So it's no surprise that children, adults were addicted to them.
Yeah.
Well, it's having that awareness that we're addicted to them and making the choice to do something different.
Yes. And as you're talking, one other tip that I would suggest is go outside.
Oh, yes.
Anytime you're outside, leave your phone inside and go outside. That's my tip for anybody that is wanting to, find calm and peace and, bigger picture for
Yes.
sure. Yep. And go outside at night so you can see the moon.
Oh, yeah. I took a picture of the moon yesterday, walking back to the train station at 12:30 in the day.
Yes, amazing. Amazing. Yes, she's out sometimes in the daytime too. I love it.
Yeah. I'm very consciously aware of when I'm walking around. I don't have earpods in or anything. I'm in the moment when I'm walking, and that is a conscious choice that I've made every single for a couple of years now. You spot so much more when you were in the moment when you're walking around. Like I spotted the moon. Whereas if you're listening to a podcast or listening to a book or music or your head's in your phone, you're not going to see these wonders of the world.
Right.
I love it.
Yep. Me too.
I think have we done it to death now?
I think we have talked it to, yes, I think we have completed our mission.
We've gone full circle.
I think we have, like the moon, right?
Exactly.
And its cycle.
Exactly. We've got to
So
think of it
beautiful.
as a cyclical conversation.
I love it. This was such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on, and I hope whoever's listening has got a lot out of it. And if you want to connect with Mary and find out about her Slowdown retreat, the next one is in February, Katie in Texas. And if you want to join the Moon and Me subscription that I'm in, that's on Voxer, and all the information will be in the show notes below. So you can find her, follow her, stalk her. That's what I do. Listen
Well,
to
thank you.
all of her wonderful Voxer.
It's not stalking, it's just enjoying what I'm creating. So I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming. Are you ready to become a wealth warrior in 2024? If so, come and follow me on Instagram at I am Leah Crowfoot, where you can find out more about how you can become a wealth warrior through your own money mindset transformation.